Good morning, everyone. Today is May 5th. Welcome to a new month. Welcome to the Auvoria Prime. My name is Stephen Vettel, Chief Market Analyst, your risk manager. Let's go through real quickly. Have some fun things to talk about today. Today's going to be a risk and a drawdown management topic day. So I'll give everybody a minute here as we come in, just go through some of the risk disclosures. Trading the foreign exchange market carries high risk and may not be suitable for all investors. So as I will show today, building a trade plan is an important part of risk mitigation and can help avoid drawdowns and or worst case scenario, your account getting blown out. So please pay attention, text everybody, telegram everybody, tell them about this. This will be recorded. We will be putting this in the back office. And let me just shift over to the next screen here. For those that are new, this is my role, essentially being your risk manager. So I try every week to take a deeper dive, and I actually had a meeting yesterday with the developers going through some of the different currency pairs versus an account trading one pair versus three. So I'm going to share some insight in this. I'm going to continue to build on this insight as we go a little further into the week. Make sure this one screen, let me pull up also the chat. Looks like I'm getting a couple of messages that the sound's not coming through okay. How about the screen sharing? So if you guys could just put a quick yes in here so that everything's coming across okay, that'd be great. So hopefully you're seeing the slides. So looking at my conversations and just reflecting on some of the craziness that's going on, especially in the Euro JPY pairs, and just understanding some of the changes that we had suggested to the developers yesterday. They are going to be working on a few changes to help assist in setting a more conservative drawdown plan and or a settings plan in the software. So I think it's going to be important if you stay tuned for my next presentation this weekend on that. I think it's going to be exceptionally important because we're starting to see, especially with the yen, a considerably more volatile market. Do keep in mind as just a macro theme here with the software. Yes, the software does consider drawdowns. It takes it into account. The software has adept ability, as I've certainly talked about with the data over the last year, at climbing out of these types of holes that it's dug. Because the more stretched a particular currency trade is, you'll hear me talk a lot about the rubber band trade, which is just more than stretching out to the standard deviation or 1, 2, or something closer to a 3, which is an extreme. You almost always have a snapback. This is what's called mean reversion, and it's common in trading. Most instruments traded, have a mean reversion. They want to snap back to wherever they were. So the more oversold they get. But more importantly, just go to the next screen here. So topic for today is risk and drawdown management and choosing the right Forex broker. I think that coming into the Tuesday and Wednesday, and certainly just looking at the account and how it's been performing throughout the last couple of weeks, I would take a look to start at, each symbol. So if you're trading 3 pairs and your P&L for any given day is like into Tuesday night or into Wednesday, you're really going to want to just pay attention to how the currencies are doing and essentially what's going on. So if you're not in drawdown and you want to close the pair out, I'm actually going to go through a little video of that. And actually just finished this series 1 video also of the settings. So we're going to upload that and put that into the back office. But essentially any pairs Wednesday morning that are a loss for the week, you will want to hold and close the other two and keep the one until it swings back into a profitable. So the key thing is when you try to hold all pairs, even though some were at break even, it's going to be a little tricky. So I just wanted to touch a little bit about this. Just focus on for being conservative. If you are have a positive P&L essentially with two pairs, if you're trading three in an account, I would close out those two pairs and just keep the one open. So let me get into just covering this first. I think it's important also. With my discussions with the developers yesterday as well, it came up a lot, and these two gentlemen and their whole team that they do a tremendous amount of data analysis. They found a lot of problems with most Forex brokers around the world, and they highly suggested that I at least talk about choosing the right broker. Now, as a U.S. company and as an investment advisor, I'm actually not allowed to recommend a broker, but what I can do is talk about what to look for in the right type of Forex broker. So essentially choosing an A book versus a B book broker. And the most important thing is you just want to focus on choosing a broker that is 100% A, meaning that they just earn commissions from trades. Okay. So what's kind of different about Forex from the equities markets and certainly the bond and the futures markets is because in Forex, the broker can choose to trade against you. So this is known as B booking. Okay. So when your broker sends all of your trades to the real market or the liquidity providers, this is known as A booking. Essentially, they're just earning a commission from the trade. Okay. So I come from futures and equities land, so it was a little different for me coming into Forex trading a number of years ago, having to sort of have a completely different thing to pay attention to. So it became much more important to find the right broker. So just know that if you want to, with your directors and a lot of the folks in your up and down line, many of them know the right brokers to deal with depending on your region of the world. So I would just communicate with them. They can get you steered to the right broker. There are all tons of different ones out there. There's some that are very good, but to keep in mind, you want to focus on brokers that more A booked, just earning commissions, not taking the other side as the trades are betting against you. Albeit there are some brokers out there that are good, that are B brokers, but they don't, they've been pretty good about it. So again, the directors of your groups and so forth will know all about that. But essentially the key with the chart here is trades sent to prime brokers, essentially avoiding taking anything inside the purple line, which is where the retail guys were. So let me shift over to and share screen one. And let's get to the screen. Okay, here we go. So we are in now to the Einstein. As you guys can see, just looking at opening up the Euro JPY, we've had some craziness. So and in my case, I actually have the trailing equity feature. Let me just open up the window here again. I have the trailing equity feature set. So in getting back to just the profit management type, you have the two choices. Obviously, you have the trailing equity, which is what I have set, and you have the fixed weekly goal as well. So if you want to choose a fixed weekly goal, just understand this is a more aggressive setting. And if you do that, you click OK, it'll go for whatever the goal is here, which in this case is 3%. These are the default settings as well. The other thing that came up in our drawdown management was and I'm just reading through just a mass load of notes that we've gone through in putting all this together. The other thing that came up that I want to point out is that you want to wait 2 hours after the market opens, always, to begin trading. So essentially, this is 7 Eastern time on Sunday, which is hour 23. So the default is Monday, hour 1. So you want to change that to 7 Eastern Sunday, hour 23. I'm going to show you this right here. So at the bottoms of the settings screen, make sure, let me spread this out, that you have trading time Sunday, hour 23. And that will help a lot with some drawdowns. But do keep in mind, the beauty of this software is that it's pretty good of really getting in there and climbing out of a drawdown. It's not always the case. But do also understand that if you take my advice from the previous discussion, set up a demo account first, and inside the demo, the executions, depending on your broker, are going to be different than the executions in a live account, okay? In a live account, there's other factors that come into play. I suggest setting up a demo account mostly just from an understanding of just seeing how the software executes, making sure you understand the settings, making sure you understand the risk, you put your trade plan together, all really good, conservative stuff. And then when you move into a more aggressive stance, like opening up a live account, start with something small. Even though you may have a lot of money, get a feel for how it's working in the real world. And you'll begin to understand. It'll take a little bit of time. The beauty of all this is that whether you have Einstein or Alexander operating for you, depending on what country you live in, the beauty is that all of the decisions, with the exception of settings, are made for you by the software in terms of the types of trades to take. And with discretionary trading versus having software do it for you in a semi trading type fashion, most of the work's been done for you, and that's the beauty of Einstein and Alexander. So your only role is just to develop a basic trade plan and understand how the settings take. So what else do I want to address? Just going through pages of notes here. So let's make sure we cover this again. Let me switch over to the equity protector. Just double click inside the screen. For those that be on these calls of the past, these are getting a bit redundant. I understand. Bear with us because I want to make sure we've got everybody on the team, in solid as far as understanding the conservative settings that we're going to show. So trailing equity, once that's selected, you just click OK. And as you will see, it'll set up and say not trailing yet. If you want to open the window back up, just click this box right here. So once the trailing equity is chosen, as I mentioned in the video we're going to release soon, the fixed weekly goal of 3% becomes inoperable. It has no bearing on what's going on. What has bearing is the trailing equity start. So in this case, the default setting is 2%. This is the trigger, okay? So essentially the software becomes activated and now starts protecting the account, more conservative stance. And then the trail equity by percentage, which is 1%, if the account was to fall back to that percent, it would protect the account by closing out trading. Now, what we're thinking of doing, and I don't know whether or not this is doable, it's something that's sort of on the table, but possibly having this trail equity by currency specific. So if you had 3 different currencies open in the account, you could set the software to automatically close out 1 if you're trading 2, or to close out 2 if you're trading 3 based on an equity protector. So it was a good idea that collectively we kind of came up with, and we presented it to the developers. They said that it shouldn't be that much of a problem, but they have no time for when it would be released and how long it would take to do the programming. So just an idea on the table. We're always trying to think about the community here as far as putting a good protections in place that can make it more, streamlined. You don't have to go in and manually close the trades out and so forth. But I'll be putting a video out on how to close the trades down, which I don't really have a lot of time for today because I wanted to take some Q&A and keep this call shorter. So if we could please, Omar, if you could open up the Q&A chat for me, and let's take some questions. While we're doing that, let me just go through these notes and make sure we got everything covered. So I'm not really sure how to open up the chat window for questions. Maybe we could table the questions to Saturday. I'm not really sure how to do that in the controls here. So I see participants raising hands, but I don't see how we actually activate the chat room for questions. The chat window open. Yeah, our technical guys may not be with us right now, so we may need to table the chat till Saturday. So I would say hold your questions off, guys. If we can't get them turned on right now, I'll figure out how to do that on Saturday. Let's take some questions. Here, hang on a second. Looks like I'm getting some instructions on how to manage attendees here. I don't see how to do that, you guys. Maybe someone can jump in here and turn it on for me. Otherwise, we'll just table the questions. I don't want to leave everybody hanging. So that's all I had as far as presentation. Just want to make sure everybody understands how to choose an FX broker. Kind of gets a feel for that. But if we can't get the chat turned on, which I don't know how to do, so you guys are gonna have to show me how to do that maybe for Saturday. Yeah, no worries. All right, so I'm getting pinged. We don't have the assistants with us today, so we'll get this uploaded into the room. I'll see all you guys on Saturday, and if you have any questions, just keep them. Make sure you get in touch with everybody that's got some big drawdowns in this, and you, especially as directors, I really think it behooves you guys to get on with your team and just find out whose accounts are getting beaten up, what settings are. Make sure all the settings are, starting off with conservative, and then these are drawdowns inside of demo accounts. Obviously, it does not affect because it's not running live money. But if the ones that are running live money, these didn't ever test it out with the demo account, it probably would be a good idea to set one up so you can get a good feel for how everything runs. Just think of it more in like a conservative type mode. So, all right, guys, Steve Vettel wishing everybody a great week. Sorry for the technical difficulties, but we will see everybody on Saturday.